Okay, let's talk weekend box office because this was a big one. Big one. Barbie made a huge splash at the box office, $337 million global. Oppenheimer did really good as well, brought in $174 million worldwide. So together, this weekend at the box office comes to I think, one of the biggest opening weekends ever in the history of cinema. I believe it's number 3. That's what it was yesterday. I don't know if that's changed, but as of yesterday, people were out there saying this was the 3rd biggest weekend of all time at the box office, which is pretty wild. It's pretty wild. Now, I'm a little shocked by Barbie's global bow. It was doing good, but that is massive. The real question I have now is how does this movie perform next weekend? I've seen both of these movies. I went and saw Oppenheimer yesterday at the box office, and man, the theater was packed for a Sunday. It was like going there on a Friday night, and it was like 5 p.m. on a Sunday. It was pretty surprising, to be honest. So, I don't know. I'll give you my thoughts on them. Barbie, I did not like Barbie. There were some parts that I did like about it. I honestly think there was a good movie in there somewhere if you had just... We talked about this on Flashcast on Saturday. I think if this movie would have been more like the Lego movie, and, you know, at the end it was revealed that it was just a bunch of little girls playing with the dolls, I think that would have been a better movie. But some of the shit in this movie is pretty bad. Ryan Gosling is the highlight of the movie. He's really funny in it. There's a lot of ridiculousness that I thought was funny. I really liked the first part of the movie where they're all in, like, Barbie land. There's just, when it starts talking about patriarchy and stuff, I couldn't help but roll my eyes. But, you know, even if it had been the Lego movie, I don't think I would have liked that version either, to be honest, because this movie's not made for me. And I think that's fine. It's fine that movies aren't made for everybody. The only time they're supposed to be made for everybody is if it's geared towards men. And that's when people go after it, which I think, you know, if you can make movies for certain demographics. I think that's fine. Oppenheimer, pretty good, kind of boring for long stretches. I think Christopher Nolan needs somebody that will tell him this is stupid. I think he's falling down the same trap that George Lucas did with the prequel trilogy. George Lucas didn't have anybody to tell him no. And in a way, that's kind of a problem. The sequel trilogy is shit. In the prequel trilogy, everyone's always saying they're on a path to redemption. And I like some of the prequel trilogy stuff, but let's be real. They're nowhere near the level that the original trilogy is. I think Christopher Nolan needs a dude that can tell him, you know, yeah, this is stupid, don't do this. Because there was a lot of stuff in that movie that I think could have been cut or changed. And, yeah, number one, it didn't need to be 3 hours long. Because, spoilers, after they run the test bomb, that movie drags. Overall, an okay experience, but I got to tell you, I was not feeling this movie as much as I did some of his older ones. Now, the real question I have is, how do these movies perform next weekend? Now, Barbie is a very female front-loaded movie, and historically, you don't go to the movies multiple times. So usually, these movies will fall off a cliff for the next weekend. which would be pretty bad. But I believe this movie is probably made, it's damn close to breaking even, if not, like, because it had so I think the budget for Barbie, when I read some reports the other day, was around $170 million, somewhere around that number. So this movie's getting pretty close. That's not as expensive as most movies. So this movie's already pretty close to making its money and stuff like that. One concern I have for the movie, or about the movie, is something that Tom from Midnight's Edge was saying on Saturday, that with this movie making all kinds of money, like, is this going to set things back a little bit? Because, you know, you had a lot of woke bombs this year, and then now the biggest movie, potentially maybe the biggest movie of the year, could be Barbie. And, you know, that kind of sends a message back that woke sells. So we shall see. Here are the list of broken box office records. Look at all these records broken by Barbie. Largest domestic opening of 2023 year to date, besting Super Mario Brothers, $146.4 million. Largest Warner Brothers advanced sales. Largest pre-shows. Largest grossing day. Largest opening for a female-directed film. Largest highest opening for a movie from a woman filmmaker. Largest non-sequel. Largest domestic opening for Greta Gerwig. Largest, why is that? That's, okay. She's made what, like a handful of movies? I mean, I guess it's breaking a record, but it's like, you know, it's not really a big name. Little Women, that movie bombed. Largest domestic opening for Margot Robbie. This kind of breaks her box office poison label she was getting, because she's had a string of bombs. I will say this, Margot Robbie is stunning, that whole movie. She is hot the whole movie. It's kind of nice to see a woman being beautiful for a whole movie. Like, she was dressed very feminine. She looks very feminine. She's very attractive the whole movie. It was refreshing, because usually we don't get that anymore. We get like Captain Marvel haircuts and shit. I did appreciate that. Overseas, Barbie is the biggest launch for Gerwig, Gosling, and Robbie. Largest opening weekend for a movie based on a toy. The previous was Transformers Dark of the Moon. Largest WB non-sequel. And Barbie has already surpassed the lifetime grosses of many other female-led movies, including Ocean's 8. Not hard to do. That movie flopped. Birds of Prey flop, and Little Women flop. Oppenheimer also broke a bunch of records, but nowhere near as many as that. Like, this is the highest grossing opening weekend for an R-rated film. Oppenheimer was R-rated. I guess it was. Well, there was a lot of sex scenes in it. Are the sex scenes? I watched that movie, and I forget that there's like a sex scene 5 minutes into the movie. There's like 2 sex scenes, actually. That's not a big spoiler or anything. And I think if you hadn't had those sex scenes, you could have probably made this movie PG-13, to be honest. Because there was nobody doing drugs or anything in it. A lot of pipe smoking, cigarette smoking. I can't think of too many scenes where there were a lot of swearing. The sex scenes, I think, are probably what pushed that movie into an R rating, to be honest. Christopher Nolan's third highest grossing opening weekend, both global and domestic. Biggest global day and date opening weekend ever for a biopic. Outpegging Bohemian Rhapsody. Is that the right word you want to use for Bohemian Rhapsody? The biggest global opening for a drama since 2019. Highest grossing weekend for an R-rated film. I do like that. Beat out John Wick. I like that R-rated movies are doing better. I want more R-rated movies. Biggest, but this one, to be honest, didn't need to be R. I don't know. I'm not gonna. Maybe the sex scene was important to have in there. I don't know, but I feel like those two sex scenes are what probably got this an R-rated rating. Like John Wick is unquestionably R-rated. Biggest IMAX opening for Christopher Nolan. Third biggest international box office opening for a Nolan film. Biggest non-superhero Nolan opening. The biggest opening day for a Nolan film in 33 markets. And then, of course, people are highlighting this. Oh, my God. So great opening. It's so great that a woman directed this movie. That's going to be some of the talking points of the press, I'm sure, for weeks. And the last bit of news to talk about here is Mission Impossible. A lot of people were calling me crazy for saying this movie could fail. And it dropped 64%. Now, I'm not taking pleasure in the demise of Dead Reckoning. I quite like Dead Reckoning, but it's still following the trend of many of the movies that came out this summer and not performing that well and having a big tumble during its second weekend. However, as they point out in this article, it could rebound. Most Tom Cruise movies, as they point out, don't have big opening weekends and usually have legs. So the real question for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning is, will the movie have legs? That we will find out soon enough. Because next weekend, Oppenheimer and Barbie could fall off a cliff. And that's been a trend of the summer, by the way. All summer, movies have been bombing left and right. And that could happen with this film. So we shall see. Anyway, that is the news, the box office news. Let me know what you guys think about all of that in the comments below. Also, if you would, please like, subscribe, share the video. Make sure you're still subscribed. Hit that notification bell. Check out my Rumble and Locals. I'll see you on the next one. Peace. Make sure to check out my Locals. There's a link in the description. It's a fun community that I'm trying to build over here. If you don't want to support me on YouTube, you can come over here. None of that money goes to YouTube. You also can just come over here for free. But if you are a supporter over here, I do plan on doing an extra live stream once a month and throwing links to the supporters so you can actually come on and have a supporter live stream with me. Also, it's a good place to catch all of my content. You don't have to worry about notifications like YouTube. They'll definitely work over here. So come check out my Locals.